It has been 25 years since Princess Diana gave one of the most explosive interviews of all time, touching on everything from her battle with bulimia to her relationship with Prince Charles, of course.
Now, tonight, a special one-off documentary examines the run-up to that momentous programming, resurfacing claims that Diana was manipulated into doing the interview, which, has to be said, the BBC strenuously denies. Joining us now is former News of the World editor Phil Hall, who says he believes Diana knew exactly what she was doing. And we also have Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, who says she had no regrets about doing the interview, but did regret some comments she made. Yes, I mean, that is often why people, isn't it, Paul, regret doing interviews. It's not the whole thing. It's the one or two comments that you look back and think, oh, I wish I hadn't said that.
It is. And with the Princess, she was a professional. She was briefed. She was rehearsed. The recording was on her terms. She said what she wanted to say. But looking back on it, she did say to me she worried about speaking about her love life, about James Hewitt, and what the boys would think, because no children want to listen to their parents' infidelity. It's the same the world over.
I suppose the accusation is, though, that she was in too vulnerable a state and really shouldn't have been pushed into, or should have, for her own sake, being told, no, this is not right for you, as Max Hastings, we saw there, said he did. Now, as we say, the BBC strenuously deny this, but is there an argument to that in your personal view?
Well, I think, knowing the Princess for over 10 years, I knew her intimately, and I would say I think that the Princess was very vulnerable at that time, but Martin Bashir wasn't the only journalist, or Max Hastings wasn't the only journalist that the Princess courted. You full well know that Piers Morgan was in that circle, and as was Paul Dacre at the Mail, Richard Kay, of course, Clive James. All of these people were in the Princess's closer circle, and they all knew the Princess's dilemma. But Martin Bashir came along, and he too was a small fish in a big pond. He belonged to an institution of the BBC, and I thought to myself that the Princess for once had a foothold in the BBC, of which Marmaduke Hussey was the chairman at the time, and he was married to the Queen's Lady-in-Waiting. So in the Princess's world, this is a bit of a poke in the eye for the establishment, and she was getting in the back door of the BBC.
Phil, what do you make of the claims in tonight's documentary? Because there is a suggestion, and you will know the facts of this, that Princess Diana was quite paranoid about who was leaking stories and who she could trust in her circle. And in the report you just heard of, there was a suggestion in the documentary tonight about some bank statements suggesting that people were being paid by newspapers to sell stories on her, and that all of that made her, in a way, vulnerable to doing this interview. What do you make of that claim, that she was A, highly paranoid, and B, felt sort of trapped in a way about how to get her own story out?
I don't think she was paranoid. I think people are underestimating Princess Diana. Paul would know her better than I, of course, but I always found her to be very smart, very astute. She knew how to interact with people. She was a very human individual, and I think she knew what she was doing. She picked a young journalist with a vast audience. The BBC, after all, was the biggest global platform she could possibly get. And I think we have to remember that only a year earlier, Prince Charles had done an interview with Richard Dimbleby, which must have hurt her very, very badly. And her position at that time was, I need to get my story out there and explain the other side of it, because Charles painted a very sort of dark picture of her, really, and not himself. And I think she wanted the truth out there.
It is extraordinary, isn't it, that we're still talking about that moment when she did make that documentary now. Other documentary makers are still making documentaries about the documentary. It is... What does it say about us that we are still so fascinated? Was it her power, her allure? Was it the fact that, you know, we're all seeing her sons grow and have their own families? Why do we still, you know, think about those times?
She was a unique individual, and I think even now people can see that the way she behaved and the way she communicated with people is far above anything that the current royal family are doing. It's certainly my view. I mean, we're singing a little bit with William now and the children there. He has that sort of same touch that Diana had, but she was a unique individual. She could touch people with a smile, with one picture. You remember the minefields picture that went around the globe? She had that instinct for knowing and understanding how to get the best out of a media opportunity.
And Paul, just give us a flavour, because you were there, weren't you, when Martin Bashir was due to do this interview. Give us a flavour of what sort of clandestine activities you had to get up to, so that obviously nobody knew that this interview was happening and it wouldn't leak out into the palace. Tell us a bit about your role in all of that.
Well, it wasn't unusual for me to be clandestine. And the princess said to me one day, I've got a mission for you. I want you to pick up a man from White City. I'll tell you exactly where to go. Go in your car. So I went along and waited outside of this building, and out came Martin Bashir, and into the back seat he went. A blanket went over him, and I took him back to Kensington Palace. It had to be very secret. The princess didn't want anyone to know that Martin was coming to Kensington Palace. And so over the period of 6 months, she got to know him. She befriended him. They became great friends. Martin is a charming man. And don't forget, at this time, the princess was influenced by Hasnat Khan. And she saw in Martin Bashir a reflection of Hasnat. And his career was very similar to Hasnat's. So she wanted to back him, and she wanted him to do well. And he persuaded her, of course, this is the best thing that could happen. This is the best thing you could do. Get your story out from your mouth, your words. And at the same time, of course, it would be the best thing that Martin Bashir had ever done. But don't forget, there was a positive side to the Panorama interview, because what happened after it, yes, the shutters came down and the royal family was ostracized Princess Diana and cut the ties to her, but it also catapulted the princess onto the world stage. It cut away all that protocol, and she was free at last to call her own shots.
Well, tonight people can watch Diana, The Truth Behind the Interview, 9 p.m. on Channel 4.